So let's talk about Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. You heard from his mother, you heard from his father. He was from Atlanta, he had kids, he was in a gang, but he had started to kind of try to get into the music business. And he had started doing that by, one, he had a relationship with Rich Homie Quan. Two, he had just put Lucci on, YSL Lucci. So he was trying to kind of turn that market and do something different. What did you also hear about Donovan Thomas? That on the night that he was gunned down, that he was at the barbershop, getting his hair cut, his brother was there, and what were they getting ready to do? Meet with their dad and go watch the football game. I think it was the Ravens and the Patriots. Don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the Ravens and the Patriots. And that's what he was getting ready to do. Spend time with his father. You know that he has a biological brother, but he also has a brother, which Kelvin Watts, who's super close to him, that they are brothers, but not biologically, but they share a brother, so they call themselves brothers. He said he was trying to get in the music industry. That's him with YSL Lucci. That's him with Rich Homie Quan. And so much so that after his death, Lucci had a whole album dedicated to him, Long Live Nut. And we know that Peanuts was his nickname. Now let's go over some timelines, because I think oftentimes we focus just on the murder, but there's some things that led up to that day that is very important for you to consider as you continue to live. So we know September 2014, Rich Homie Quan's father's barbershop shooting. Now Mr. Copeland, we're going to talk about Mr. Copeland, told you on the stand here that him and Threat were responsible for that. YSL members responsible for shooting up the shop of a YSL gang member. Or shoot the father of a gang associate. Then, if you can recall, in all of the different interviews, majority of them, Mr. Copeland talked about this shooting at the Lakewood gambling house. He talked about it in mostly every interview when he kept on telling them about the history of him and Kelvin. And he talked about the fact that Kelvin had shot up the gambling house and shot up Thug's car. Then he talks about, in multiple interviews, a meeting at Cascade Skating Rink, in which him and Kel were there. Kel wanted Copeland to call Thug so they can maybe squash whatever issue that they had. And that when Thug, Mr. Williams, got on the phone, he asked Kelvin, "Are you going to pay for my car window?" Kelvin said no. They got into it, and it kept on going. You heard about the January 6th fight at Club Crucial, in which Copeland was jumped at the club. And then upon leaving the club, there was a fight with Bloody J, that some YSL members jumped on Bloody J, and that Kendrick and Arnold, they were arrested when they left the club. And that's going to be important, because when we talk about phone records, why we don't have some phone records from Mr. Kendrick. Then we had the January 8th shooting at TIG Studio, where Rich Homie Quan's purple truck was shot up. There was some alluding to the fact that Copeland did that shooting. I think Quindarius Zachary may have said in his interview that Copeland did that shooting. Then there was that blood meeting the night before the murder.
Hey, listen.
Now, I know that Mr. Sharp played for you the clip in which Copeland says that the blood meeting was about him, but remember, the blood meeting was also about Mr. Williams. And he said that in one of his interviews, that the blood meeting just wasn't about him, but it was about him, Copeland, and Mr. Williams.
Oh, sorry, y'all.
Then on January 10th, you had the death or the murder of Mr. Donovan Thomas at 330 McDaniel Street. Then you have the retaliatory shootings begin immediately. See, the streets knew what it took the state and the government a long time to figure out. They went directly to who they thought killed Donovan Thomas. They immediately started shooting at Jeffrey Williams' family's house and Kenneth Copeland's family's house, because they thought that both of them were in on it. Also, in the late morning hours, early on January 11th, Kenneth Copeland meets with the Atlanta Police Department, and many of the YSL members, they flee to Miami.
He meets with the police department is a
You have more
wild
retaliatory
statement.
shootings.
By the way.
Then in April, between April and May of 2015, you had the incident at Dunbar Center where Copeland is found with that gun. They don't arrest him then. He calls Gaither. Gaither speaks to him. They let him go. But once they did more investigation, they got the video surveillance from the Dunbar Center. They arrest him on June 10th. And then that's when he does the 9-hour interview that we'll discuss. In August of 2015 was Quindarius Zachary's interview. In September 2015, Shannon becomes the target of 2 shootings, one at the Green Store, the other one with Ms. Tierra Jones. In October 2015, arrest warrants are taken out for Garlington, Copeland, Sledge, and Stillwell. In November 2015, there was a preliminary hearing. The case was dismissed against Sledge. In 2016, the case was dismissed against Garlington and Copeland, and Stillwell received a bond. Between 2016 and 2018, there was some additional investigation and follow-up, and the indictment came in 2022. We're going to talk more about these dates, but I want to give everyone a general timeline overview. As Mr. Agus talked to you about earlier, you determine the credibility of the witnesses. And I can't remember if it was Mr. Shard or Mr. Weinstein who said it, but they are absolutely right. We don't choose our witnesses. The witnesses and our victims are chosen by the crimes that are committed. So when you do your gang murder and you brag to your gang member friends that you murdered someone, then the person I have to bring in here to tell you what happened is the gang member friend. And the gang member friend isn't going to want to tell you in front of them what they told the police. So that's why I had to fight. Ms. Love got to fight. We got to argue with them back and forth because now they have to come in here and confront the people that they snitched on in front of them. So, and they know that. They know that none of these witnesses want to come in here and say what they told police.
That's true.
And they're begging on you to say, well, I don't know. I mean, he did swore an oath in court and said that he told the God's honest truth. Let's come and tell him God's honest truth in this courtroom. Maybe some of the stuff he told was true. Here and there, like he said, he's doing a little bit of truth sometimes. That's what he said, right? He did that a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a moment. What's going to be important are prior statements. It is important because you as a juror get to determine the witness credibility, right? And this may be affected by you comparing and contrasting the testimony to statements or testimony of that same witness before trial started. You, the jury, can decide whether there's a reasonable explanation for any inconsistency in a witness's pretrial statements or testimony when compared to that same trial testimony. And we're going to actually apply common sense and reason to decide what testimony you believe or do not believe. So let's go through the evolution of Kenneth Rudy Copeland. Let's take some time, all right? January 11th. This is hours after the murder. His girlfriend's house just got shot up, and they call him. Thorpe calls the girlfriend to kind of check in on and see what's happening with their shooting, and they put Copeland on the phone. See, on January 11th, when he walks inside, he real strong YSL, right? He's not trying to give up his friends. He want to let the police know, I didn't murder. Let me tell you something. I didn't murder Donovan Thomas. I'm going to tell you I was at my girlfriend's house. I'm going to tell you I went to the Green Store. I went to McDonald's. He's not going to give you too much information because here, he's trying to still protect his friends. That's just common sense. The police don't really know what's going on yet. So when he first goes there, he's trying to protect his friends. But then we get January 28th. See, if y'all remember, y'all, this is after he gets out the shootout on the highway. See, this is after he came from the little pool party, and he on his way home, and they shoot at him at the highway. And remember, in this interview, he talks about, I believe, Shannon being upset with him because he didn't want to shoot back. So here, he's trying to tell them everything that YFN people are doing to him, but he's still not trying to give up his friends. They were friends. But he's a little frustrated because everyone's blaming him for murdering Donovan Thomas, and everyone's shooting back at him, and he didn't do anything.
Well.
Then we get February 20th. Now this was the worst one because that's when he's trying to come out the house to take his baby to the hospital, and they come down the street shooting at him. So now he's like, they are shooting at me, they're shooting at my baby and my girl. Look, this is too much. And he tells them about what happened. Again, this is the interview where he really didn't want to give up who shot at him. He knew who did it, but see that gang street code is he still didn't want to give up the person who shot at him and his baby. And that's when Kurt was like, you're not going to tell me who just shot at you and your baby? Then the next day was February 21st. They had arrested him for a violation of probation. He was upset because they arrested him on a violation of probation. And Gaither talks to him, one, about the shooting that had happened the day before, and trying to get more information about the murder, trying to figure out what is going on. What is going on with this back and forth? Because by this time, and ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to go through that whole litany gonna call it Operation Planner shooting, but you heard evidence of all those shootings that were happening back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they're trying to get a grasp of what is happening. And then we get to the 9-hour interview. So what happened between February and June? A lot. We got some back and forth shootings. Remember Mr. Copeland went to jail for that violation of probation. He came out. He went to Henry County for a little while. And then on June 10th, he gets arrested for the gun that he had at the Dunbar Center back in May. And what's going on here? Mr. Copeland is tired. He been getting shot at. His family been getting shot at. Homes getting shot up. Remember Kenneth Hurst or Kenny Booth's house? His sister-in-law, his sister's child's father's home has been broken, getting shot at. And Shannon and Mr. Williams not talking to him. Remember Shannon, and he thought Mr. Williams was trying to kill him. That's everything he talks about in this 9-hour interview. And let me say this. If for some reason y'all want to watch all these interviews again, y'all can. Y'all just got to let them know. I don't know if you want to sit there watching a 9-hour interview again, but if you wanted to, you can. But in this interview, he is at the place where enough is enough for him. And I'm going to tell you about Mr. Copeland. I'm going to tell you about Quindarius Avery. They are self-preservationists. What do I mean by that? They're going to not talk about what they've done because they don't want to go to jail. But if telling on them is going to get me out of jail, I'm going to tell you what's happened.
Well,
because I don't want to go to jail. He's absolutely right. He did not want to go to jail. But he's not going to lie to the police about what they did. He's going to minimize what he's done. And that's what he did in this interview for 9 hours. He minimized his involvement in some things, but he told everything that they did.
No.
Stop the cap.
That's not what he
did.
did.
And if you don't believe what he told the police, well, let's listen to what he told his girlfriend on the jail call.
She messed up again. That's not what he did because he said multiple times Thug wasn't even involved in any of this. And based on the plea deal he got, I mean, it seems like that's true. I don't know what she's talking about. He said Thug wasn't even in any of this. And the state hasn't proven that Thug was involved. So, come on now, Miss Hylton.
What? Yeah. Don't. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true, Les. And that's the thing. If you want to say that Woody was telling the truth about him, then prove it. They haven't done that.
Yeah.
So in that call to his girlfriend, to the love of his life at the time,
the love of his life
he
at the
told
time.
them, I need Dee to come in so they can so they can know what I told them is true. They had to verify what I said. So when he came in and said, I will finesse the police, I will lie to them. No, because you wanted them to verify what you told them. And we're going to talk about how the police and Mike Sprinkle was able to verify what he told them. Let's listen to this June 16th, 2015 call.
But he was saying the love of his life at the time. Yeah, that's crazy. How does that work?
So what is he saying there? Why you put my name in the song? He know who did it. Because they all know who did it. They knew that it was Yak, Dua, Shannon, and Nard. And Kendrick is, Cole is upset because he's like, why you put my name in the song? Put the ones who did it in the song. So they can stop targeting me. Now, let's talk about his trial testimony. You know, I actually do like rap music, contrary to popular belief. And there is an artist, Young G, and he has a song called Put On. And I'm telling you what what Copeland and Zachary did while they testified here, was they put on for YSL. They came in here acting all types of foolishness. And that's because they wanted to show their gang member friends, look, I'm still part of the conspiracy. Y'all know I snitched on y'all back in 2015, but I'm gonna try to help y'all out as best as I can. And that's what they did this entire time. They friends. They've been friends for a long time. They wear the same clothes. They lay together. What makes you think that Demekion, when he got into that car at McDonald's, and say, yo, let me tell y'all what they just did. Let me tell you what our homie, our boy for the last couple of years just did. They just killed Nut. Because the kid wasn't around. He was sleeping at his girlfriend's house. So he missed the action. So you don't think when Demekion get in the car, he not going to say, yo, let me tell you what Sharon just did, Joe. They friends. And they want you to believe that Demekion did not tell Copeland what happened moments after it happened. That don't even make sense.
My life.
And we gonna ask you your common sense.
I got you, Amy. That's funny.
This is them. And these weren't all taken in 2015 because some of these are older pictures. They look super young. This is how long they've been friends. Now, it was interesting when Mr. Shard asked, why we show you this video from 2009? Let me tell you why. Because Quindarius been around for a long time. Quindarius been around since 2009. So Quindarius knows about what's happening. See, we didn't just bring you stuff. I know some days you're like, why does the state bring me a video from 2009 in the park? It's to show the evolution of their relationships. Quindarius is a little bit different than Copeland. Because see, he's been around Mr. Williams much longer than Copeland's ever been in the picture. See, Mr. Copeland started coming around in 2014. Mr. Zachary's loyalty is a little bit different. He's been around since 2009. So when Zachary tells you in his interview, Doug ain't know nothing about that murder. Yes, he did. But his loyalty is a little different because he's been around. 2012. That's Mr. Zachary. You want to know why we showed you the video of them outside in the apartment complex? To show their association. Again, Zachary been around again for a long time. He real better than it. He rocked through YSL. So he had a motive to lie for Jeffrey Williams that Kenneth doesn't have as much of. In his interview. See, when Quindarius interviewed, he asked to come and speak to the police. And you're going to watch his interview because what both of them do in their interviews, both Copeland and Quindarius, and this is how you know they were telling the truth, they would correct the officers. If the officer repeated something that was wrong, they would say, no, I didn't say it like that. I said it like this. That's what they would do. That's how you know that what they were trying to tell them, they were trying to be as truthful as they could so that they would get it right. They, meaning the police, would get it right. And again, same thing. He coming here talking about he want to take one of the investigators out, all types of nonsense. But again, putting on for YSL. And again, he's been around. They friends. They friends. And why would they lie on their friends? If they knew to make up stuff and make up lies, why would you lie and say your friends committed a murder? That doesn't make sense. Why lie? You could just say anybody made up the murder. If you were just lying, you don't want anybody to verify what you were saying, you could have said anybody committed the murder. But that's not what they did. So there were a lot of different witnesses that came in about Donovan Thompson's murder. But we're going to talk specifically about these individuals. Investigator Thorpe, he was the original detective on the case. He took out those arrest warrants in October, and that was after talking to an individual by the name of Spencer Wright. He then turned his file over to Mike Sprinkle. Then we have both Dennis and Gaither. They were both, just because of the back and forth that they were investigating, just ended up talking a lot about the murder with these different individuals. And then you have Kenneth Copeland and Quindarius Zachary. And then what did Mike Sprinkle tell you? When he got the file, he reviewed it, and the first thing he did was realize that Spencer Wright was lying, and said, okay, I have to get rid of this information. And it was something that Mr. Shard said, which I found interesting. Mr. Shard said that Nicholas Robinson, aka Spencer Wright, is an example of individuals who will say anything just to get out of jail. But the difference between Nicholas Robinson and Quindarius and Kenneth Copeland is that Mr. Sprinkle couldn't verify what Nicholas Robinson said. But he was able to verify what Quindarius and what Kenneth Copeland said.
How?
So did Mike Sprinkle corroborate Kenneth Copeland and Quindarius Zachary? Emphatically, yes. So let's talk about the activity before the murder. And some of these are the videos, but there was no dispute about the Lakewood shooting in Club Crucial. And what you have in both of those interviews is that both Copeland and Zachary actually sat and talked about those shootings. I'm not going to play the video for you, just in an abundance of time, but we know that those two things at least were not disputed. So let's talk about the day of and the days after the murder. So what did Copeland tell you about that morning? What did the phone records tell you? I know that's kind of small, but you'll have the phone records in the back. That between 6:37 and 7:26, Copeland's phone was in the area of his girlfriend's house, right? That's QR's, Copeland's girlfriend's residence, which was on Maury.
My barber abandoned me this week, man. I didn't get it.
And that's between 6:37 and 7:26. If you can recall, the 911 call for the murder came in at 7:22. At 7:26, he is still at his girlfriend's house after the murder. So this notion, when they say, well, Kenneth Copeland did it, I know somebody who could have done it, well, it wasn't Kenneth Copeland. The person who did it is Stillwell, Yet, Nard, and Dumas. Because Kenneth Copeland was at his girlfriend's house at 7:26. Then he says he went to the green store.
We still can't hear it.
And then it's like, and like, you know, he got my way, which is big out there. I don't talk to one team. So I thought he's like, no clean, bro. I don't think he comes to come. It's a white choice. Alright. So I'm on one house. I go to the car. I get in the car. I get the car full of information. So I got the information. Now, I can't throw a car back in there. I can't throw it, you know. So I got car. I got full of information. I ain't bad. So I talked to the Rick. Man, the Rick talked to my car. These don't see.
7:28. Between 7:28, he's at the drink store. And then he travels down towards the McDonald's, like he told him. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, about corroboration and phone records. He doesn't know we're going to pull the phone records later. He doesn't know that Mike Sprinkle in 2016, almost 8 months after this, that we're going to pull the phone records to see whether or not what he's saying is true. I know he came in here and said, I got 2 phones, I had 2 phones, and all this other stuff. He didn't have 2 phones. Or if he had 2 phones, the main
He said
phone
he
is the
had
phone
more
that he's
than
calling
2
his girlfriend
phones.
on. You can look at the records. The records will show who he's talking to. He talks to his brother and his girlfriend on the phone he's talking about. Corroboration, I'm not going to play it, but he says, you just heard him say he goes out to the McDonald's.
I get caught. I ride cheap. I put it in McDonald's. I put it in McDonald's. Put it outside. People wait there. The one that bought my usually get it. So I put it in McDonald's. So he got it put it in. So they put it in. Who was he with? He was Benjamin. So they put it in. Benjamin, who he said, I know that. He said, he know that he was. It was D, no, and the whole thing I think it was. They the white people. D, no, but they do Shannon and yeah. All of this one concept, what kind of focus? The G, they actually got the white people. Boom. They got out. I mean, no, D got out. So when D got to call me, D got
Still can't hear these calls.
So we talked about that white nitro. Ladies and gentlemen, that is from the Dexter Montgomery shooting. What is that? That's the white nitro that Nard and DK came in from OG Bentley's house. So is it ironic that, oh my goodness, OG Bentley has a white Dodge nitro? That small fact is corroborated. He talks about getting the call from Antonio Sledge.
I got a call, right? So
Exactly.
I heard what, like, man, you got some good name discriminate, if I know you discriminate, but I'm telling you, like, I think you got coach, I am.
And what I'll say is, we'll just go back just very quickly. He told you that he FaceTimed with Antonio Sledge. We know that FaceTimes don't come up on records, on phone records, but that entire night, him, Antonio Sledge, and Zachary are in communication. What you will see is none of those 3 people, we're going to talk to another group of individuals that we're going to talk about next. So again, things are corroborated that Copeland is saying. Here he's going to talk about that everybody went to Jeffrey Williams' condo.
So the man got a car, he stopped talking. So, we don't get on spill. Wait, are they following y'all? Nah, they don't follow them. Okay, y'all follow this. Yeah, but when he told me, I ain't follow it. But I said, he didn't get that cover. He got to tell one of them. So we found that store. They stay downtown on Chicago. That's it. I found them there. So I found that. She's doing it up. So now I got to come. Like, what did you kill them? Like, who? Like, you did point me. Now, he had pointed to the arm. Yeah. So I'm like, what happened? He's like, what? So, first thing I say was,
So here you'll have these phone records in the back. This shows phone activity near Mr. Williams' condo between that time of 7:31 and 11:22. Again, he talks about the condo. And remember, in this call, in this interview, he first talked to Gaither and an ATF agent. Then later,
what he's saying?
Stuart came in. He kind of repeats what happened, right? And that's what is going on. But again, consistently talking about being around the condo. They both talk about going to Miami after the murder.
Totally. This is the same guy. You got to keep this right all the time. Man, like the people that driving around, he called them. And the person driving around is a person, like person man. So he had him to drive him straight to Florida, to Bergen. Him, Doug, his sister, the girl,
He said that girl.
Doug, and Lord, and yeah. And they did like that. All them go straight to Florida. So they went to Florida. Now, I said, you call right there, like, honey. You know what I mean? He's like, well, what you cut out? I was like, yeah, because I didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And they about to like, I held the phone, walk up. And when I walked out, I heard that he's like, I caught. So you want to
both talking about them going down to Miami. Now, in court, that's probably one of the one things that they talked about, that they all went to Miami. But they all said they went for this concert in Miami. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we showed you all the flyers, and there's no flyer in Miami for January 10th, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. The only flyer in Miami, or in Florida, was in Tampa Bay. So the question becomes, why are y'all going to Florida right after Donovan Thomas' murder? To flee.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Because YSL knew what they did. And they had to get up out of Dodge. And they went down to Birdman's house to lay low until things, maybe some of the dust starts to settle. And we had the phone records to show you all that they all went to Miami, all the different phone records in Miami after the murder, and the times that they all went after the murder. Now, we talked about the Grand Infinity. They both discussed, well, Copeland said there was Thug that rented the Grand Infinity. Zachary, I told you his voice is a little bit different. He didn't want to say Thug rented the Grand Infinity. He talked about it was a meme. But we both know that this Grand Infinity was rented. And I won't play the video for you, but there are the two clips. If you want to play it later, you can play it. And how was that corroborated?
She said, I won't play the video, and she plays the video. What are we doing here, lady?
Mr. Sprinkle
she's doing
found the Hearst rental car record
This isn't
in
terrible.
order to corroborate, is what Mr. Copeland said accurate? Was there a rented gray vehicle? Almost a year later, he finds the rental car. That is corroboration of what Kenneth Copeland said. He literally took everything that Kenneth Copeland said and said, can I corroborate this? And that's what he did.
Corroborate?
Now let's talk about who they both
Making
said.
up new words now.
Remember, Copeland is in June, Zachary is in August.
How do you corroborate that?
Who was in the car? That's supposed to be the driver. I don't think. This was a legit boat story. And he said, I think he said, I'm a huge child. And he said, they rolled past the same place, stand outside. They went somewhere and changed clothes. Nah, they know it was. I dropped Sandy out the door. I went home, my baby home. And then, door lived and was wrong past nothing to see him. And went to the gas station and seen
Thank you, Joshua. Same to you.
The gas station, because of the gas station. I just did the store, so. Because this innovation was called the gas station. Store got in the code with her. Store got things to eat. They got to call it the girl. And they were folded up in the car. Jet, Shannon, Noah, and Dumas.
All right, that's Copeland in June. Here's Zachary in August.
This is all what Shannon is telling me. So, it's both. Shannon had told what Dick Shannon told, what Shannon told her. So Shannon, they both told the same story. Where were you guys when Shannon was telling you this, and what day was it? The same day or the day after? Same night. Shannon, I was walking through, I just walked in, so I just pulled up at the house. And Shannon was a little girl out. And all the boys were going out to like, he like, I'm going to go to the place, he wants some gun. Right. I'm sorry, I don't hang up. He wants some gun, goes to the store. So I had no bullet. And Shannon started home. Don't come serious, he know where they're at. Right. He ain't gonna let that kill. Now, he knew where they got killed, but he knew where they did. So I knew some talking with them. That's what I heard you. And then don't Shannon tell me the story. Say he was going to be pushed, but they woke up and seen blood. Say they had to roll back around. And then slow shooting them. Show Yak, Nard, and Duwop. So
He said it was Yak, Nard, and Duwop. This is two different interviews. Copeland is telling them what Demekion told him, and Zachary is telling the police what Stillwell and Yak told him. But how we have the same people? Yak, Nard, Duwop, Stillwell. That does not change. That's corroboration of each other. Two different
Corroboration.
interviews. Two different times.
How you say
The
that?
same people? Ladies and gentlemen, that's evidence. That ain't no coincidence.